We don't need you anymore, get out, you work from home freeloader. These harsh words from my sister stung, but it didn't stop there. Even my parents joined in, shouting, get out. I'd had enough of being treated like a nuisance by my family. If that's how they felt, I decided to do as I pleased and make my own plans for revenge. My name is Kathy, I'm 33 years old, single, and work as a freelance web designer. My job allows me to work from home with just a laptop, so I set my own schedule. It's a flexible and convenient lifestyle, but everything changed 2 years ago. That's when my parents started disrupting my peace. It all began one day when my parents visited my home unannounced. As they walked around, they started chatting as if I wasn't even there. Mom, this house is so big. It seems like we could live here too. Dad, exactly. There's even a spare room. It's such a waste for Kathy to live here alone. Mom, let's move in this weekend. Dad, agreed. Let's do it. They made this decision without asking me. Frustrated, I interrupted. Wait a minute, I have no intention of living with you guys. My dad's face turned red with anger. What are you talking about? You only got this house by taking it from your uncle. You're selfish, trying to keep it all to yourself. That's not true, I replied. I spoke with uncle, and he gave it to me. I didn't take anything. But Dad ignored me. No excuses. Our old house is falling apart, and your mother and I are moving in this weekend. Here's the truth. The house had been given to me by my father's brother, my uncle, who was very fond of me. The house's title was still under his name, but he told me I could use it however I wanted. Meanwhile, my parents' home had become so run down that major renovations were needed. Since my father's income was low and my mother didn't work, they couldn't afford the repairs. So, they set their sights on my home. Despite my protests, they sold their old house and claimed they had nowhere else to go. Reluctantly, I let them move in. But once they did, life became unbearable. My parents constantly threw sarcastic remarks at me, making me feel like an intruder in my own home. One day, my mom started her usual nagging. Mom, Kathy, you're over 30 now, aren't you? Don't you have any plans to get married? Me, I'm happy with my work right now. Mom, keep saying that, and you'll never get married. Why don't you take after your sister? Me, but my sister's marriage isn't going that great, is it? Anyway, I'm fine as I am. That's when my mom, who had been eavesdropping, jumped into the conversation. Mom, hey, don't badmouth your sister like that. At least she's married and working for a company. You're just wasting your time at home. Me, I may not be married, but I'm doing a decent job. Mom, decent job? You're always fooling around on your computer. You must be making money through some shady means. Me, shady? I earn a living through honest work. You don't have to worry about that. Mom, how dare you talk back? You're the total opposite of your sister. This was how it always went. My parents constantly compared me to my sister, Sandy. Sure, Sandy worked at a company, but she was only a temp. I didn't look down on her for that, but the truth was, I earned much more than she did. My parents just didn't understand how freelancing worked, and their remarks hurt. One day, while I was cooking dinner, since my parents never helped, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. I opened the door and saw Sandy standing there, carrying a huge amount of luggage. Me, Sandy? What's going on? Sandy, long time no see. Kathy, this is sudden, but I'm moving in today. I stared at her, confused. Me, what? Moving in? I didn't hear anything about this. Sandy, didn't Mom and Dad tell you? I got divorced. Me, divorced? Sandy, yep, so I'll be counting on you from now on. Without waiting for my response, Sandy marched inside, went upstairs, and claimed one of the empty rooms. I tried to protest, but my parents sided with Sandy. As usual, there was nothing I could do. After her divorce, Sandy quit her job and spent her days gossiping about me with Mom. My stress levels skyrocketed as I tried to deal with their constant criticisms and unfair treatment. One day, I overheard Sandy chatting with Mom while I was making dinner. Sandy, hey Mom, isn't this dress cute? Mom, oh yes. Sandy, it's beautiful. You're so pretty, it will definitely suit you. Sandy, do you think so too? It's totally not something Kathy would wear, right? Mom, well, Kathy's a bit plain. That's why she can't get hired anywhere. All she does is play around online at home. Sandy, laughing Mom, you can't just say the truth like that. They were clearly making sure I could hear them. I wanted to snap back, but I knew they were baiting me. Instead, I stayed calm, silently finishing dinner without reacting. Not long after, a friend of mine had a litter of puppies. and I decided to adopt one. He was a little black chihuahua with round, adorable eyes. I named him Muffin. He was so full of energy, wagging his tiny tail every time he saw me. Getting a chihuahua had been a childhood dream of mine. Working from home often felt lonely, so I thought Muffin would bring me the comfort I needed. Me, to Muffin from today. Your name is Muffin. Welcome home. Muffin, woof. Since it was my house, and I would be paying for all of Muffin's expenses, I didn't bother consulting my family. After all, it was my decision. But as soon as I brought him home, the complaints started. Mom, why didn't you tell us you were getting a dog? Sandy, exactly, dogs smell. I hate odors. Dad, Kathy, how could you bring a dog here without our approval? I calmly replied, first of all, Muffin wasn't some stray, I got him from a friend. Second, I'll be the one paying for everything, so it's not your concern. This is my house, and who I choose to keep here is my business. If you have a problem, you're free to leave. That shut them up, for now, but I knew they wouldn't let it go so easily. At first, my family complained endlessly about Muffin. Their faces were red with anger, but within hours, everything changed. They were completely won over by Muffin's cuteness. Mom, aren't you the cutest? Are you Mommy's little baby? Dad, or are you Daddy's? Sandy, no, he's my little sweetheart. Look here, Muffin. I couldn't believe it. Just moments ago, they were furious, and now they were fawning over him. It was like a dream. From then on, they couldn't get enough of Muffin. They played with him constantly, and to my relief, their hostility toward me seemed to fade. For a while, life became more peaceful, but, of course, it didn't last. One day, while I was running an errand, I got a call from Sandy. She was yelling, Sandy, come home now. Me, what? What's going on? Sandy, furious Muffin did his business on my clothes. What if they smell? I stayed calm and replied, just wash them. It'll be fine. And isn't it your fault for leaving your clothes all over the floor? Sandy, what? It's not my fault. It's your poor training that caused this. Me, Muffin, still a puppy. Puppies make mistakes. And didn't you say you were excited to take him for a walk today? Did you actually do it? Sandy, well, I was going to, but this is your fault. You should have trained him better. You owe me for my clothes. When I got home, Sandy was furious. She threw her soiled clothes at me while my parents stood by her side, glaring at me. Sandy, I'm charging you for the cleaning. Me, why should I? You didn't walk him, and you left your clothes on the floor. Sandy, screaming, shut up. It's your fault for bringing this stupid dog into the house. What are you going to do about it? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A stupid dog? You were obsessed with him just yesterday. Isn't it harsh to call him that over a tiny accident? Sandy, no. This is all because of your bad training. Take responsibility. As I argued, my parents joined in. Mom, Kathy, you should apologize to Sandy. Dad, that's right. This only happened because of Muffin. Me, give me a break. Puppies are like babies, they make mistakes. Can't you forgive him just this once? But Sandy kept yelling. This wouldn't have happened if you took him for walks and kept the house clean. You're so pathetic, Kathy. It's a good thing you didn't get married. You'd be a terrible mother. Her words hit a nerve. How dare you say that? Sandy raised her voice again. I've had enough. I don't need you or your dumb dog. Get out of this house. Me, shocked, what? Sandy, you heard me. Get out. You're nothing but a freeloading home worker. Freeloader? I couldn't believe what I was hearing from someone who was jobless herself. Who did they think was paying all the household expenses? It was me. But before I could respond, my parents chimed in. Mom, she's right, Kathy. Leave this house. You're a jinx. Dad, yes, get out. We don't need you here. All three of them kept chanting, get out. My anger reached its breaking point. That's it. I've had enough. With Muffin in tow, I packed my belongings and left the house. As I walked out, Sandy had the audacity to add, this is all your fault. If you had just listened to me, none of this would have happened. I clenched my fists. They would regret this. Even though I knew my family was in for a tough time, they still didn't seem to grasp the reality of their situation. Me, to myself, well, never mind. Enjoy yourselves while you can. Suppressing a smile, I walked away from the house with Muffin. A few days later, just as I expected, my sister Sandy called me. Sandy, panicked Kathy, help. The house, me, calmly, what happened to the house? Sandy, we've been told to leave by the end of this month. Me, oh? So what's the problem? Sandy, what do you mean, what's the problem? Why do we have to leave? I replied flatly, I'd decided to sell the house. Sandy, shocked, what? You can't do that. You don't have the authority. I chuckled. Actually, I do. A month ago, Uncle officially transferred the house to me. The title is in my name now. Sandy froze. Her voice trembled as she stammered, why, you're kidding, right? Even if Uncle gave you the house, you can't sell it just like that. Me, I was worried about that too. But after you kicked me out, I spoke to Uncle. He said, the house is yours now, Kathy. Do whatever you want with it, and get away from that awful family. Sandy, no. No way. It sounded like my parents were listening to the call on speaker, because they suddenly jumped in. Dad, Kathy, stop this. We have nowhere else to live. Mom, that's right. How can you do this to your own family? Be a good daughter and respect your parents. Hearing this, I stayed calm but spoke firmly. Respect? What respect have you ever shown me? You've always looked down on me and treated Sandy like she was better. Who do you think has been supporting you all these years? I let you live with me because you had nowhere else to go. My parents fell silent. I could tell they were stunned. Me, continuing, and who was it that treated me and Muffin like garbage? Who kicked us out of the house? That was you. Trying to enjoy yourselves by throwing me out was shameless. You deserve whatever happens now. Finally, my father broke down and begged. Dad, please, Kathy. Help us. We're sorry. But I wasn't moved. I don't care. Fend for yourselves, you idiots. With that, I hung up the phone and blocked all their numbers. Muffin, who had been watching me raise my voice, let out a worried little woof. I picked him up and hugged him tightly. Me, I'm sorry for shouting, Muffin. It's all okay now. I'll protect you. Looking at Muffin's sweet face, I felt grateful I had gotten him away from such a toxic family. Whatever the future held, I knew we'd be fine as long as we had each other. Eventually, my parents and sister were forced to leave the house at the last minute, despite desperately trying to stay. With my father's small income and my mother and sister unemployed, they couldn't possibly live a comfortable life. From what I've heard, my parents now constantly nag my sister to find a job, and their relationships are getting worse by the day. I don't really care how they're living, but it's clear their situation has gotten much worse since I left. This is truly a case of reaping what you sow, it serves them right. As for me, I'm living a happy and peaceful life with Muffin in a lovely pet-friendly apartment. I can work whenever I want without anyone criticizing me. All my earnings go toward myself and Muffin, and no one can interfere with my choices anymore. Me, Muffin, shall we go to the dog park today? Muffin, woof. Muffin seems so much happier and more lively now, probably because he doesn't have to deal with that toxic family anymore. From now on, I want to protect him and enjoy this peaceful, fulfilling life together.